We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Whispers in the Walls. Riker Donovan had always prided himself on control. At 42, he'd built his security consulting firm from nothing, turning his military intelligence background into a thriving business that specialized in keeping secrets safe. The irony wasn't lost on him now. His 5-year-old daughter Lily came home from kindergarten that Tuesday afternoon with an unusual expression. Her normally bubbly demeanor had vanished, replaced by a solemn intensity he'd never seen before. "Everything okay, Pumpkin?" Riker asked, kneeling to meet her eyes. Lily clutched her purple backpack to her chest. "Daddy," my friend said, "you must never tell your dad." Something cold settled in Riker's stomach. "About what?" She trembled and pointed toward the living room. "It's right there." Riker stood slowly, tension building between his shoulder blades. Their modern 2-story home in the suburbs of Portland had always been his sanctuary, particularly the living room with its wall of windows overlooking the garden his wife Brenna had meticulously cultivated over their 8 years of marriage. "Stay here," he instructed Lily, his voice dropping to the commanding tone he rarely used at home. The living room appeared normal at first glance. Leather sectional, coffee table with art books, television mounted above the fireplace. Nothing seemed out of place, but Riker's training made him look deeper. He scanned methodically until he spotted it, a tiny reflection from behind the television. Moving closer, he discovered a miniature camera, professionally installed and nearly invisible. His pulse quickened as he searched the room. 3 more cameras, 2 microphones, all wireless, all professional grade. Someone had been watching his family, listening to their conversations. "For how long?" "Who told you about this, Lily?" he asked, returning to his daughter. "Ms. Nadine's daughter. She came to school today and showed me pictures of our house on her mom's phone." Nadine. The name hit Riker like a physical blow. His wife's best friend. The same woman who had introduced Brenna to her personal trainer 7 months ago. Riker immediately called the police, but even as he reported the break-in and surveillance equipment, pieces were falling into place. Uncomfortable pieces that painted a picture he wasn't ready to see. When Detective Alvarez arrived, Riker sent Lily upstairs to her room with her tablet. The detective examined the equipment with gloved hands, his expression grim. "This is sophisticated gear, Mr. Donovan. Not something an average stalker picks up at a convenience store." "I'm aware," Riker replied, his mind racing. "I want a full investigation. Given your profession, do you have any competitors or clients who might?" "This isn't business," Riker interrupted. "Check the equipment for fingerprints and trace it. I'll handle the rest." After the police left with the devices, Riker sat in his home office, staring at the family photo on his desk. Brenna's smile now seemed different. Hollow, perhaps. He pulled out his phone and texted his longtime friend and business partner, Vince Morello. "Need full background on Dominic Russo." Priority 1. Dominic, the personal trainer who had transformed his wife's life. The man who had seemingly brought the passion back to Brenna's eyes. Only now, Riker suspected that passion had never been about fitness at all. Chapter 2. The Silent Observer. Brenna returned home that evening with flushed cheeks and bright eyes that dimmed when she saw Riker waiting in the kitchen. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, workout clothes still clinging to her slender frame. "You're home early," she said, setting down her gym bag. "Everything okay?" "Interesting day," Riker replied, studying her face. "Someone broke into our house." The color drained from her face. "What? Is Lily?" "She's fine. Upstairs, watching cartoons." Brenna's hand flew to her throat, a nervous gesture she'd had since they met at a charity gala a decade ago. "What do they take?" "Nothing. They left something instead." Riker watched her carefully. Surveillance equipment. Very professional. Hidden in the living room. Her eyes widened, but something about her surprise seemed rehearsed. "Oh my God, Ree, who would do that?" "That's what I'd like to know." He took a sip of his bourbon. "Funny thing is, Nadine's daughter showed Lily pictures of our house today. Pictures taken from inside." Brenna's expression shifted. Fear, guilt, calculation, before settling on confusion. That doesn't make sense. Why would Nadine? I thought you might help me figure that out. Riker stood, towering over her by nearly a foot. Along with why you've been lying about your training sessions with Dominic. I haven't. Don't. His voice cut like steel. The cameras have been recording for months, Brenna. The police have them now. It was a bluff, but it worked. Brenna collapsed onto a kitchen stool, her shoulders slumping in defeat. It's not what you think, she whispered. Enlighten me. Her story spilled out in fragments. Dominic wasn't just a trainer. He was an ex-con who specialized in blackmail schemes. Nadine had introduced them after falling victim herself. Dominic had threatened to expose compromising photos of Nadine to her husband unless she helped recruit new targets. Brenna claimed she'd been stringing Dominic along, pretending interest while trying to gather evidence against him. He wanted access to your client files, Brenna explained, tears streaming down her face. He said he knew you had sensitive information on politicians, CEOs. I was trying to protect you. Riker leaned against the counter, his expression unreadable. And the cameras? He installed them to make sure I followed through. I didn't know how to tell you without putting everything at risk. It was a compelling story, one that painted her as a victim, a protective wife caught in circumstances beyond her control. It might have worked on someone else. But Riker had spent his career reading people, detecting lies, and one crucial detail didn't align. When Lily had pointed to the living room, her fear had been genuine. She hadn't known about the cameras before today. If Brenna had been an unwilling participant, she would have discovered and removed the surveillance equipment immediately. I want to believe you, he said finally. Relief flooded her face. I was so scared, but I spoke with your sister this afternoon. The relief vanished, replaced by rigid panic. Brenna's sister Taylor had always been her confidant, the keeper of secrets since childhood. She didn't mean to tell me about the lake house rental, Riker continued, watching Brenna's expression crumble. She thought I already knew about your romantic getaways with Dominic, the ones that started 3 months before Nadine supposedly introduced you. Riker, please. I'm taking Lily to my mother's tonight. You have until tomorrow evening to move out. Brenna's composure shattered. You can't take my daughter. Something dark and cold settled in Riker's chest. Watch me. As he packed an overnight bag for Lily, Riker's phone buzzed with a message from Vince. DR is Dominic Russo, 37. Ex-military intelligence, discharged under suspicious circumstances. Specializes in corporate espionage. Has connection to Meridian Systems, your biggest competitor. The pieces locked into place. This wasn't just about an affair. Someone had deliberately targeted his family to get to his business, to the classified information he protected for his clients. And Brenna had been a willing participant. Chapter 3. Blood in the Water. Riker's mother lived in a modest bungalow 30 minutes outside Portland. At 70, Eleanor Donovan remained sharp as a tack, with the same steely resolve that had carried her through raising Riker alone after his father's death in combat. Something's wrong, she said the moment she opened the door to find Riker and Lily on her porch at 9 p.m. Sleepover at Grandma's. Riker announced with forced cheerfulness for Lily's benefit. Eleanor's eyes narrowed, but she played along, ushering Lily inside with promises of hot chocolate and the cookie jar she always kept full. Once Lily was settled in front of the television, Eleanor cornered Riker in the kitchen. What happened? Riker told her everything. The cameras, Brenna's affair, the connection to Meridian Systems. His mother listened without interruption, her weathered hands wrapped around a mug of tea. What will you do? She asked when he finished. Legally? File for divorce, full custody. Eleanor studied her son's face. And the rest? A muscle twitched in Riker's jaw. They came after my family, Mom. They used my wife to try to steal classified information that could put lives at risk. And you won't let that stand. It wasn't a question. Eleanor Donovan knew her son, knew the quiet intensity he'd inherited from his father, along with a dangerously long memory for betrayal. I can keep Lily for as long as you need, she said simply. Just remember who you are. Riker kissed her forehead. I know exactly who I am. That night, as his daughter slept in his childhood bedroom, Riker made 3 calls. The first to his lawyer, initiating divorce proceedings, and an emergency custody order based on Brenna's involvement in illegal surveillance. The second call went to Vince. I need everything on Meridian Systems. Board members, financial records, current contracts. And I need to know who they're targeting in my client list. The third call was to a number he hadn't dialed in years. When a gruff voice answered, Riker spoke without preamble. It's Donovan. I'm calling in the debt. 2 days later, Riker sat across from his lawyer, Gabriela Reyes, reviewing the preliminary divorce documents. The evidence is strong, she said, sliding surveillance photos across the desk. The private investigator documented 6 meetings between your wife and Russo at the lake house. And the police report on the surveillance equipment gives us grounds for the emergency custody order. Will it be enough? Gabriella nodded. Temporary custody is already granted. Full custody will depend on the judge, but with the criminal investigation into corporate espionage, your wife will be fighting an uphill battle. And if she claims she was coerced, the timeline works against her. We have evidence of the relationship predating any supposed blackmail scheme. Gabriella hesitated. There's one more thing. Your wife has hired Winston Davies. Riker recognized the name. Davies was a shark, known for scorched earth divorce tactics. She's going to fight dirty, Gabriella warned. Let her. Riker gathered the photos. Just keep Lily safe and away from her. Everything else is secondary. When Riker returned to his mother's house that evening, a familiar truck was parked in the driveway. Inside, he found his former military commander, Colonel Reed Preston, playing checkers with Lily. Uncle Reed, Lily exclaimed. He says he's going to teach me chess next. Reed winked at her. Only if your dad says it's okay. After Lily returned to her game, the two men stepped onto the back porch. Didn't expect you to come personally, Riker said. Reed shrugged his broad shoulders. When you call on a 7-year-old debt, it gets my attention. Your message said it involves Meridian. They targeted my family to get to my clients. Reed's expression hardened. You have proof. Building it. But I need to know why they're suddenly coming after me so aggressively. What contract are they afraid I'll win? The Prometheus Project. Reed lowered his voice. Pentagon's new cybersecurity infrastructure. 9-figure contract, classified details. Word is, you're the frontrunner. Riker absorbed this. And Dominic Russo? How does he connect? He was one of mine. Brilliant, but unstable. Last I heard, he was working private security. Reed's eyes darkened. If he's involved with Meridian's corporate espionage, he's fallen far. Far enough to seduce my wife for access to my company. Reed placed a heavy hand on Riker's shoulder. What do you need from me? Access to the old network. Contacts who operate outside normal channels. And plausible deniability. The older man studied him. This won't bring her back, you know. I don't want her back. Riker's voice was flat. I want them to regret ever knowing my name. As the sun set over his mother's garden, Riker Donovan began to transform from a man betrayed into something far more dangerous. A man with nothing left to lose but a daughter to protect and a score to settle. The man he had always been beneath the veneer of normalcy was awakening, and blood would soon flow. Chapter 4. Wolves at the Door. 3 weeks after discovering the cameras, Riker sat in a rented apartment downtown, surrounded by monitors displaying financial records, surveillance photos, and personal information on his targets. His normal life had been suspended. The divorce proceedings were underway, with Lily safely ensconced at his mother's home under the watchful eye of a retired military buddy serving as unofficial security. Brenna had vacated their home as demanded, but her departure had only been the beginning of the war. Winston Davies had filed vicious counterarguments to the custody petition, painting Riker as an absent father obsessed with his work, prone to paranoia and control issues stemming from his military past. The character assassination didn't concern him. What mattered was the information flowing in from his various sources, information that revealed the full scope of the plot against him. A knock at the door interrupted his concentration. Vince entered, carrying a thick folder and a bag of takeout. You look like hell, his partner commented, setting down the food. Riker hadn't shaved in days, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. What did you find? Vince spread the contents of the folder across the table. Financial records for Meridian Systems. They're hemorrhaging money on fail bids. The Prometheus project is make or break for them. And Russo, paid through a shell company. But here's where it gets interesting. Vince pointed to a document. The shell company is owned by Stanford Whitlock. Riker went still. Meridian CEO is personally financing this operation. It gets better. Look at the payment dates. The first payment to Russo had been made 18 months ago, far earlier than his relationship with Brenna had begun. They've been planning this for over a year, Riker murmured. But why target you through Brenna? Vince asked. Why not just hack your systems? Because they tried that already and failed. Riker pulled up an incident report from 14 months prior, an attempted breach of their security systems that had been thwarted. After that, they changed tactics, made it personal. Vince looked troubled. There's more. Brenna's been meeting with Whitlock directly, 3 times in the past 2 weeks. Riker's expression darkened. Where? Hotel Monaco downtown. Private dining room. Vince hesitated. There's something else you should know. Nadine Palmer isn't just Brenna's friend. She's Whitlock's niece. The connection clicked into place. Nadine hadn't been another victim. She'd been the access point from the beginning. She had introduced Brenna to Russo, knowing precisely what would unfold. They underestimated me, Riker said quietly. They thought I'd be so devastated by the betrayal that I'd miss the bigger picture. What's our next move? Riker stood, staring at the assembled evidence. We need to know what information they've already stolen and what they're planning next. Time to set a trap of our own. The next morning, Riker visited his company headquarters for the first time since the discovery. His employees had been told he was working remotely on a sensitive project, which wasn't entirely untrue. In his office, he met with his head of cybersecurity, Phoenix Walsh, a former NSA analyst with a genius for digital counterintelligence. I need you to create a false server, Riker explained. Make it look like it contains our Prometheus project bid details, but seed it with traceable markers. When someone accesses it, I want to know exactly who, when, and what they took. Phoenix nodded, her fingers already flying over her keyboard. How vulnerable do you want it to appear? Convincing, but not obvious. They're professionals. They'll be suspicious if it's too easy. And what about the real bid documents? Isolated on a separate system. No digital connection to our network. Riker handed her a flash drive. This contains the only copy of our actual proposal. Guard it with your life until the Pentagon's submission deadline. As Phoenix left to implement the plan, Riker received a text from an unknown number. Whitlock made reservation at Palmer Estate for Charity Gala this Saturday. Guest list includes DR and your wife. Invitation attached, as requested. R. Reed's network was delivering as promised. The Palmer Estate belonged to Nadine's parents, prominent socialites who hosted an annual charity gala that attracted Portland's elite. It would be the perfect opportunity to observe all his targets together. But first, he needed to understand Brenna's motivations more clearly. Money was the obvious answer, but something about this felt deeper, more personal. That afternoon, he visited Taylor, Brenna's sister, at her downtown boutique. When she saw him, her expression cycled through guilt, fear, and resignation. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I never should have. I'm not here to blame you. Riker interrupted. I just need to understand why. Taylor locked the boutique door and flipped the sign to closed. What has she told you? Nothing truthful. That's why I'm here. Taylor sank into a chair. It started last year. Brenna felt overlooked. She said living with you is like living with a ghost, physically present, but never really there. We had problems, Riker acknowledged. That doesn't explain corporate espionage. Dominic made her feel alive again. Valued. Taylor's voice hardened. But it was Whitlock who offered her the money. $2 million for access to your files. And she took it. Taylor looked away. She said it was justice. That you'd built your success on other people's work, including hers. Riker frowned. What are you talking about? The Hyperion algorithm. She claimed she developed the core concept, and you took credit. The accusation hit like a physical blow. The Hyperion algorithm had been the foundation of his company's success, a revolutionary security protocol he developed during their first year of marriage. That's impossible. Brenna isn't even in cybersecurity. Before you met, she was working on her master's in computational linguistics. She says the basic concept came from her research. Riker struggled to process this. Brenna had been a literature professor when they met, with a side interest in language patterns. They'd had theoretical discussions about linguistic security protocols, but nothing that had directly informed Hyperion. Or had it? She wants to destroy you, Taylor said softly. The money is secondary. She believes you stole her future. As Riker left the boutique, pieces were rearranging in his mind. A personal vendetta complicated matters, made his opponents more dangerous. But it also presented opportunities. People driven by vengeance made mistakes, and he was counting on those mistakes. Chapter 5: Masks and Mirrors. The Palmer estate sprawled across 3 acres in Portland's West Hills, a testament to old money and careful cultivation of political connections. As Riker handed his keys to the valet, he felt the weight of the gun holstered under his tailored jacket, a precaution he hoped wouldn't be necessary. Inside, crystal chandeliers illuminated the gathering of Portland's wealthiest and most influential citizens. Riker moved through the crowd with practiced ease, accepting a flute of champagne and scanning faces. He spotted Brenna first. Her black gown clung to her curves, hair swept up to reveal the diamond earrings he'd given her for their 5th anniversary. She was laughing at something Nadine said, seemingly carefree despite the legal battle raging between them. Stanford Whitlock stood near the bar, a tall, silver-haired man with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to power. Beside him was Dominic Russo, more polished than Riker had expected, his dark hair styled impeccably, designer suit highlighting his athletic build. Seeing his wife's lover in person stirred something primal in Riker's chest, but he suppressed it. Emotion was a luxury he couldn't afford tonight. Riker Donovan, a smooth voice said beside him, "I didn't expect to see you here." He turned to find Mallory Chambers, Stanford Whitlock's second-in-command at Meridian Systems. They had crossed paths at industry events over the years, maintaining a cordial professional relationship despite their competing businesses. "Mallory," he acknowledged, "supporting the Children's Hospital is a cause close to my heart." "Of course." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Though I imagined you'd be busy with your personal situation." "I never mix business with pleasure," he replied, "or personal problems with professional obligations." A wise policy. She sipped her champagne. "Stanford was just saying how much he admires your resilience." "Was he?" "I'd love to hear that directly." Mallory's smile tightened. "Perhaps later. He's quite in demand tonight." As she drifted away, Riker noticed Brenna watching their exchange, her expression unreadable. When their eyes met, she didn't look away as he expected. Instead, she excused herself from Nadine and approached him directly. "Bold move coming here," she said softly. "I could say the same." He gestured toward Dominic. "Parading your lover at a public event while our divorce proceedings are underway." "He's not my lover. He's my business partner." Riker raised an eyebrow. "Is that what they're calling it these days?" "You never understood what I wanted, Riker. What I needed." Brenna's voice was steady, her eyes clear. "I try to be the supportive wife, the mother to your child, but you never saw me, my intellect, my ambitions. So you decided to destroy everything I built?" "I decided to take back what was mine." She leaned closer. "Hyperion was my concept, my research. You took it and built an empire while I played housewife. We collaborated on ideas. That's marriage, Brenna. But the algorithm itself was based on my linguistic pattern recognition thesis, the one you borrowed from my laptop." Her smile was brittle. "Did you think I wouldn't notice? That I'd be content with a nice house and designer clothes while you claimed all the credit?" Before Riker could respond, Stanford Whitlock appeared at Brenna's elbow. "Mrs. Donovan," he said smoothly, "you look ravishing tonight." "It's Ms. Walsh again," she corrected. "Or it will be soon." Whitlock turned to Riker, extending his hand. "Donovan, surprised to see you here." Riker accepted the handshake, noting the excessive pressure Whitlock applied. "I never missed the Palmer Gala. Nadine's parents have been friends for years." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Whitlock's face. "Yes, well, Lovely to see you supporting the cause despite circumstances. He guided Brenna away with a proprietary hand at her waist. If you'll excuse us. As they walked away, Riker caught Dominic watching him with undisguised interest. The younger man raised his glass in a mocking toast before following Brenna and Whitlock toward a secluded corner of the ballroom. Riker circulated through the party for another hour, exchanging pleasantries with acquaintances while keeping his targets in peripheral vision. When Whitlock, Brenna, Dominic, and Nadine slipped away together toward the library, he gave them a 3-minute head start before following. The library door was ajar, voices drifting into the hallway. Riker positioned himself just outside, the miniature recording device in his pocket capturing every word. The honeypot worked better than expected, Whitlock was saying. Donovan hasn't suspected a thing. He's not stupid, Brenna countered. He knows more than he's letting on. But he doesn't know about the Prometheus data, Dominic interjected. Our source confirms the fake server is being monitored. He's trying to catch us in the act. Let him try, Whitlock chuckled. By the time he realizes what's happened, the contract will be ours, and his company will be finished. And my compensation? Brenna asked. $2 million is agreed, plus a director position at Meridian once the dust settles. Papers rustled. Sign here to formalize our arrangement. Riker had heard enough. He slipped away as silently as he'd arrived, the recording secure. It wasn't admissible in court, but confirmed his suspicions and revealed a critical detail. They had a source inside his company. Outside in the garden, Riker called Vince. They took the bait with a fake server, he said without preamble. But they have someone on the inside feeding them information. Any idea who? Not yet, but I'm initiating Protocol Judas. No one accesses any systems without biometric confirmation, effective immediately. That'll slow operations significantly, Vince warned. Better slow than compromised. And Vince? Move up our Prometheus submission. I want it delivered to the Pentagon tomorrow, not next week. That's cutting it close. It's ready, and it ensures they can't interfere. As Riker ended the call, he sensed someone approaching. Turning, he found Dominic Russo standing a few feet away, hands casually in his pockets. Beautiful night, Dominic commented, gazing up at the stars. Riker remained silent. She never loved you, you know, Dominic continued. She told me everything. How you stole her work. How you made her feel invisible. Is that why you seduced her? Professional courtesy between thieves. Dominic laughed. I didn't have to seduce her. She was more than willing after years of neglect. He stepped closer. Does it eat at you? Knowing she was in my bed while you were working late? That she told me your deepest secrets? Riker's expression remained impassive. Are you trying to provoke me, Russo? Make me cause a scene? Just making conversation. Dominic smiled. Brenna says you're incapable of losing control. That your emotions are locked away so deep, even you can't find them anymore. She may be right. For your daughter's sake, I hope so. Dominic's voice dropped. It would be a shame if Lily had to see her father completely unravel. The mention of his daughter sent ice through Riker's veins, but he betrayed nothing. Threaten my daughter again, and you'll discover exactly what I'm capable of. Dominic's smile widened. There he is, the real Riker Donovan. The one Brenna always feared was hiding beneath the surface. As Dominic sauntered back toward the house, Riker remained motionless, his mind calculating. The trap was set, but now he realized the stakes were even higher than he'd imagined. This wasn't just about a contract or stolen research. It was about his daughter, his legacy, and a monster they thought they could unleash for their own purposes. They would soon learn their mistake. Chapter 6. The Betrayer Unmasked. The following Monday, Riker assembled his core team in a secure conference room at his company headquarters. Security had been doubled, and every employee had undergone emergency biometric verification over the weekend. Someone in this building is feeding information to Meridian Systems, he announced without preamble. The fake server we created has been accessed multiple times, and classified information about our security protocols has been leaked. His team, Vince, Phoenix, and 3 department heads, exchanged uneasy glances. The good news, Riker continued, is that our actual Prometheus bid was delivered to the Pentagon yesterday, ahead of schedule. Whatever Meridian planned to disrupt our submission has failed. What's our next step? Phoenix asked. Finding the mole. Riker activated the room's display screen, showing logs of system access. These are the unauthorized access attempts over the past month. All originated from within our network, using legitimate credentials. Vince leaned forward. Whose credentials? Mine, Riker said grimly. Or rather, a perfect duplication. Shocked murmurs filled the room. Only 6 people have the clearance to generate biometric override codes for my access, Riker continued. Everyone in this room, plus Luther Barnes in IT. Luther had been with the company since its founding, a brilliant systems architect who had helped build their security infrastructure. Where is Luther now? Phoenix asked. On vacation in Vancouver, Riker replied. But his credentials were used to access the system remotely last night, after we implemented the lockdown. The implications settled over the room like a physical weight. I trusted Luther with everything, Vince said quietly. Why would he betray us? Riker pulled up a financial report. $2 million wired to an offshore account 3 weeks ago. The same amount Brenna was promised. So they both sold you out, Phoenix concluded. It appears so. What do we do? One of the department heads asked. Call the FBI? Not yet. Riker's voice was steel. First, we set a final trap. Phoenix, I want you to create a false communication about a critical flaw in our Prometheus submission, something that would require an immediate amendment. A honeypot within a honeypot, she nodded. Make them think they still have a chance to sabotage us. Exactly. Make it convincing, but ensure it contains a unique digital signature that will activate when downloaded. I want to know exactly where those files go. As the team dispersed to implement the plan, Riker received a text from his lawyer. Emergency hearing scheduled tomorrow. B's lawyer filed motion claiming you're mentally unstable and a danger to L. Witness statements from DR and LB supporting claims. Luther Barnes. The betrayal cut deeper than Riker had anticipated. Not only had his trusted employee sold company secrets, but he was now helping Brenna try to take Lily away. That night, as Riker reviewed the evidence against Luther, his secure phone rang, a line known only to a handful of people. It's done. Reed's voice came through. Your package is in Vancouver, watching the target. Has he made contact with Meridian? 3 times today. He's nervous, moving money around. Looks like he's preparing to disappear. Don't let him, Riker ordered. I need what's in his head. My man will stay on him. But Riker, this is crossing a line. Surveillance is one thing. What you're suggesting is necessary, Riker finished. He threatened my daughter, Reed. All of them did. A heavy sigh came through the line. I'll have him ready for your arrival. But you'll need to handle the extraction yourself. Understood. The next morning, Riker appeared in family court, impeccably dressed and composed despite having slept barely 3 hours. Winston Davies stood beside Brenna, who had adopted a vulnerable appearance. Minimal makeup, conservative dress, hair pulled back simply. Judge Hernandez reviewed the emergency motion with a frown. These are serious allegations, Mr. Davies. You claim Mr. Donovan presents a danger to his minor child? We have evidence that Mr. Donovan has become increasingly unstable since discovering his wife's alleged infidelity, Davies answered smoothly. Witnesses report threatening behavior, obsessive surveillance, and concerning statements regarding his intentions toward Ms. Walsh and her associates. Gabriela Reyes, Riker's lawyer, stood. Your Honor, these claims are not only false but demonstrably malicious. Mr. Donovan is a respected businessman with no history of violence or instability. The timing of this motion is suspect, coming immediately after Ms. Walsh was documented engaging in corporate espionage against my client's company. Judge Hernandez raised an eyebrow. Corporate espionage? That is serious counter-allegation, counselor. One supported by evidence, Gabriela replied, presenting a file. This contains financial records showing payments from Meridian Systems to Ms. Walsh and her paramour, Mr. Russo, as well as documentation of unauthorized access to Mr. Donovan's company systems. This is outrageous, Davies sputtered. My client is the victim here. Your Honor, Gabriella interrupted. "We've also included a sworn statement from Detective Alvarez regarding the surveillance equipment found in Mr. Donovan's home. Equipment Ms. Walsh now admits to having knowledge of. This constitutes a criminal violation of privacy laws." Judge Hernandez reviewed the documents, her expression growing more severe. "Mr. Davies, did you review these financial records before filing your motion?" Davies hesitated. "Your Honor, regardless of any business disagreements, Mr. Donovan's behavior toward his wife has been entirely appropriate given the circumstances," Gabriella finished. "My client discovered his wife's betrayal not only of their marriage but of his company and clients. Despite this, he has acted with restraint and through proper legal channels." The judge studied both parties carefully before speaking. "The emergency motion is denied. Primary physical custody remains with Mr. Donovan pending the final custody hearing. Ms. Walsh will have supervised visitation only at this time." Brenna's face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Please, Your Honor, Lily needs her mother." "Ms. Walsh," Judge Hernandez cut in, "I suggest you consider your legal position very carefully. These documents suggest criminal activity that could impact your parental rights permanently." As court adjourned, Riker caught Brenna's gaze across the room. For a moment, her mask slipped, revealing not sorrow but pure hatred. Outside the courthouse, Gabriella pulled Riker aside. "That was too easy. Davies is smarter than this. He wouldn't file a motion without stronger evidence." "They're desperate," Riker replied. "The Prometheus bid deadline is tomorrow. They're running out of time to stop our submission." "Be careful," Gabriella warned. "When desperate people fail, they become dangerous." That afternoon, Phoenix burst into Riker's office, her expression grim. The honeypot worked. Someone downloaded the fake critical flaw document an hour ago. "Luther," she shook her head. "His credentials were used, but the access came from inside this building." Riker went still. "Ooh, the executive bathroom on this floor. Someone used a device that spoofed Luther's biometrics. Only 5 people had access to that bathroom: Riker, Vince, and 3 senior executives." "Lock down the building," Riker ordered. "Full security protocol. No one leaves until we find who did this." For hours later, as evening descended, Riker stood in the company's security center, watching surveillance footage with Phoenix. They had identified the time window when the bathroom was accessed, but the hallway camera had experienced a 3-minute glitch during the critical period. "This was professional," Phoenix muttered. "They knew exactly how to bypass our systems." Riker's phone buzzed with a message from Vince. "Missing backup drive from safe. Need to talk privately. Meet me in the parking garage." "I need to step out," Riker told Phoenix. "Keep analyzing the footage." The parking garage was dimly lit and nearly empty at 9 p.m. Riker approached Vince's reserved space cautiously, one hand inside his jacket. "Over here," Vince called from behind a concrete pillar. As Riker rounded the column, he found his friend and partner of 15 years holding a gun. "I was hoping it wouldn't come to this," Vince said quietly. Riker's expression remained neutral despite the shock coursing through him. "How long?" "Since the beginning." Vince's hand was steady. "Meridian approached me before we even founded the company. They wanted someone on the inside for the long game. 15 years is a very long game." Vince shrugged. "The money was good, and I never thought you'd actually succeed the way you did. You were supposed to be a stepping stone, someone whose ideas I could funnel to Meridian. But I exceeded expectations. By a long shot. That Hyperion algorithm changed everything." Vince's expression hardened. "We needed to discredit you, take you down personally and professionally. Brenna was an opportunity too perfect to ignore. You introduced her to Dominic," Riker realized. "You orchestrated the whole thing. She was receptive, felt undervalued. All I did was open a door." Vince gestured with the gun. "The backup drive, Riker. Where is it?" "What backup drive?" "Don't play dumb. The one with the real Prometheus submission. The one that wasn't delivered yesterday because I intercepted the courier." Riker allowed himself a small smile. "There was no courier, Vince. I delivered it personally to General Matthews at 5 a.m. yesterday. The package you intercepted contained blank drives." Confusion, Then fury crossed Vince's face. You suspected me. I suspected everyone. That's why I'm still alive. Riker took a step forward. The question is, what happens now? Now I finish this. Vince raised the gun higher. Nothing personal, partner. Just business. You won't shoot me, Riker said calmly. No. Vince's finger tightened on the trigger. No, because you're already under arrest. On cue, lights flooded the garage as FBI agents emerged from hiding places, weapons trained on Vince. Federal agents. Drop your weapon. Agent Samuel shouted. Vince's face contorted with rage. You son of a... I recorded everything, Vince, Riker interrupted. Your confession, your threats. It's over. As the FBI took Vince into custody, Agent Samuels approached Riker. We have enough to move on Meridian systems now. Whitlock, Russo, all of them. And my wife. The evidence suggests she was a willing participant in corporate espionage. She'll face charges. Riker nodded, watching as Vince was placed in a federal vehicle. The betrayal still burned, but something colder had taken root inside him. Something that wasn't satisfied with mere arrests and legal proceedings. Justice would come through the courts, but vengeance required a personal touch. And he was just getting started. Chapter 7. The Reckoning. Vancouver gleamed in the rain, skyscrapers reflecting in puddles as Riker's rental car wound through downtown streets. Luther Barnes had chosen a luxury high-rise for his hideout, using money from Meridian to finance his escape. In the passenger seat, Reed studied a tablet displaying the building's security system. Our man confirms Barnes is alone. 12th floor, northwest corner. Building security is minimal. Keycard access, one guard in the lobby. Cameras disabled in the relevant areas for the next 30 minutes. Maintenance protocol. Reed gave Riker a hard look. This is your last chance to let the authorities handle it. The FBI has Vince and Whitlock. They'll get to Luther eventually. Riker checked his watch. But I need what he knows first. About the algorithm. Riker nodded. If Brenna's claims are true, I need to understand exactly what happened and who knew about it. Reed sighed heavily. This path you're on, Riker, there's no coming back. I never intended to come back. Riker parked a block from the target building. Wait here. 20 minutes. The lobby security guard barely glanced up as Riker entered, dressed in the uniform of the building's maintenance company and carrying a toolbox. The service elevator required a key card, which Reed's contact had provided. Luther's door featured a digital lock, high-end, but not impossible. Riker attached a small device that cycled through combinations in seconds. When the light turned green, he entered silently. The condo was opulent, floor-to-ceiling windows, designer furniture, a view worth millions. Luther sat at a desk facing away from the door, typing frantically on a laptop. Going somewhere, Luther? Riker asked quietly. The older man froze, then slowly turned. His face had aged a decade in the weeks since Riker had last seen him. Deep lines etched around his mouth, hair seemingly grayer. How did you find me? Luther whispered. You were always careless with your digital footprint. Riker set down the toolbox. Even when betraying me. Luther's eyes darted to his phone on the desk, just out of reach. Don't, Riker warned. This conversation stays between us. Are you going to kill me? Luther's voice trembled. That depends on how truthful you are. Riker pulled up a chair across from him. Let's start with why. 15 years of loyalty thrown away for what? Money. Luther's shoulders slumped. It wasn't just money. Whitlock promised me recognition. A director position at Meridian. The chance to work on projects without your shadow looming over everything. My shadow. Everything was always Riker's vision. Riker's company. Riker's genius. Do you know what it's like to build something revolutionary and watch someone else take all the credit? The irony wasn't lost on Riker. Like Brenna claims I did to her. Luther's eyes widened. She told you that the Hyperion algorithm was based on her research? Yes. Riker leaned forward. I want the truth, Luther. All of it. For a moment, Luther seemed to consider lying, but something in Riker's expression changed his mind. It was her concept, he admitted. The linguistic pattern recognition as a basis for predictive security protocols. She showed me her thesis research one night when you were working late. Asked if it had practical applications. And you told her it did. Luther nodded. I helped her develop it further. We worked on it for months while you were securing funding for the company. She believed you would make her a partner when she presented it. But I never gave her the chance, Riker concluded, because you presented it to me as your work. I saw an opportunity, Luther said defensively. She was just a literature professor with a hobby interest in computational linguistics. I had the technical background to implement it. I deserved. Riker's fist connected with Luther's jaw, sending him crashing to the floor. You stole from my wife, Riker said coldly, standing over him. Then convinced her I was the thief. Luther scrambled backward. She would have figured it out eventually. When she started asking questions, I suggested maybe you had taken her notes from her laptop. It was easier than admitting what I'd done. So you poisoned my marriage to cover your theft. It wasn't personal. It was to me. Riker pulled Luther to his feet, slamming him against the wall. And now you'll fix it. Ow! Luther gasped. You're going to write out exactly what happened. Every detail. How you stole Brenna's research. How you lied to both of us. How you manipulated her into blaming me. And then what? You let me go. Riker's laugh was without humor. No. Then you'll record a video confession, which I'll send to the FBI along with evidence of your corporate espionage. They'll arrest me. Yes. Riker's grip tightened. But first, you're going to call Brenna and tell her the truth. Tonight, while I listen. An hour later, Riker left the building with Luther's written confession, a video recording, and the satisfaction of having heard Brenna's shocked silence as Luther explained how he had manipulated them both for years. Reed was waiting in the car, expression grim. Is it done? Almost. Riker handed him a flash drive. Get this to Agent Samuels. Luther will be contacting the FBI to turn himself in within the hour. And the personal vendetta? One more stop. The storm that had threatened all day finally broke as Riker drove toward his final destination. Rain lashed against the windshield, mirroring the cold fury that had crystallized within him. Dominic Russo's lakeside cabin was isolated 20 miles outside Vancouver, the perfect place for a man in hiding. The security system was sophisticated but similar to ones Riker's company had designed, making it child's play to disable. Inside, the cabin was dark except for the glow of a computer screen in what appeared to be a home office. Riker moved silently through the shadows, water dripping from his raincoat onto the polished hardwood floors. Dominic sat with his back to the door, focused on the screen where he appeared to be transferring funds between accounts. The distinctive ring of Riker's wet shoes on the floor alerted him too late. As Dominic spun in his chair, Riker's fist connected with his throat, crushing his windpipe before he could shout. The younger man toppled backward, gasping and clutching his neck. Hello, Dominic, Riker said calmly, pulling up a chair. We need to talk about my daughter. Dominic's eyes bulged with panic as he struggled for breath. You threatened Lily, Riker continued. Made my wife betray me. Helped steal my company's work. He leaned closer. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? Dominic gestured desperately toward his phone. Looking for this? Riker held up Dominic's smartphone. Already found your failsafe files, too. The ones implicating Whitlock and Brenna. Very thorough. Riker stood and circled the desk, examining the computer screen. Emptying your accounts? Smart move, but unnecessary. With methodical precision, he connected a device to Dominic's computer. This will transfer every penny you have to a series of children's charities. Untraceable. Irrevocable. Dominic lunged from his chair in desperation, but Riker sidestepped easily, delivering a crushing blow to his kidney that dropped him to the floor. I'm not going to kill you, Dominic, Riker said, watching the funds transfer complete. Death would be too merciful. From his pocket, he removed a small case containing a syringe. This is a cocktail of Reed's design. Not lethal, but it will ensure you never remember this night, or much of anything else. The doctors will diagnose early-onset dementia, tragically aggressive. Fear replaced pain in Dominic's eyes as understanding dawned. You'll spend the next 40 years in declining mental health, unable to form new memories, gradually forgetting everything you ever knew, Riker explained. preparing the injection, including how to speak, how to feed yourself, your own name. Dominic tried to crawl away, but Riker's boot on his back held him in place. "You threatened my child," Riker said softly. "This is mercy compared to what you deserve." The injection took seconds. As Dominic's struggles weakened, Riker placed an anonymous call to emergency services, reporting a man having a severe medical episode at the cabin address. By the time paramedics would arrive, all electronic evidence of Dominic's crimes would be in the hands of federal authorities, his money would be gone, and the man himself would be beginning a long, frightening descent into oblivion. As Riker disappeared into the storm, he felt neither satisfaction nor remorse, only the cold certainty that justice, as he defined it, had been served. Chapter 8: Blood and Truth. 1 month after the arrests of Stanford Whitlock and Vince Morello for corporate espionage, Riker sat across from Special Agent Samuels in a quiet corner of a Portland cafe. "The case is airtight," Samuels reported. "Whitlock is cooperating, offering testimony against everyone involved in exchange for a reduced sentence, including my wife, especially her. According to Whitlock, she was the architect of the entire operation." Samuels slid a file across the table. "These are excerpts from his statement. I thought you should see them privately before they become public record." Riker read in silence, his expression unchanging as he absorbed details of Brenna's role. According to Whitlock, after discovering Luther's theft of her research, Brenna had contacted Meridian Systems directly, offering information about Riker's company in exchange for revenge. "She approached them 2 years ago," Riker noted, "while we were still seemingly happy." Samuels nodded grimly. Whitlock claims she was playing the long game. The affair with Russo was calculated from the beginning, a way to gather information while ensuring you would be emotionally devastated when it was revealed. And my daughter was using her part of the plan too. According to Whitlock, involving your daughter was Russo's idea. They wanted to ensure you couldn't think clearly, that you'd be too consumed by personal betrayal to see the corporate espionage. Riker closed the file. "What happens to Brenna now?" "She's looking at 15 to 20 years for conspiracy, corporate espionage, and wire fraud." Samuels hesitated. "Her lawyer has approached us about a deal. She's offering information about other operations Meridian ran against competitors. In exchange for what? Reduced charges, possibly as little as 5 years with good behavior." Something cold settled in Riker's chest. 5 years, and then she could petition for custody of Lily again. Potentially. Samuels studied him carefully. "The prosecutor is inclined to take the deal. The information she's offering could break open several other cases." Riker nodded thoughtfully. "I understand. Thank you for the courtesy of informing me." As Samuels left, Riker remained at the table, turning his coffee cup slowly between his palms. The legal system would punish Brenna, but not severely enough. Not for someone who had weaponized their child in a vendetta. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Package delivered to B's lawyer, as instructed. Timer set for 48 hours. Riker allowed himself the smallest smile before deleting the message. 2 days later, Riker received an urgent call from Gabriela Reyes. "Winston Davies just contacted me," she said without preamble. "Brenna is withdrawing her custody petition and offering full permanent custody to you, with no visitation rights for herself." Riker feigned surprise. Why the sudden change? Davies wouldn't say exactly, but he indicated she received compelling evidence that changed her position. Gabriella sounded suspicious. "Riker, what did you do?" "I simply ensured my daughter's safety," he replied. "Will you draw up the paperwork?" "It's already done. Davies is bringing Brenna to sign this afternoon." The custody transfer took place in Gabriella's office, with a notary present to witness. Brenna entered wearing a prison jumpsuit, handcuffed and escorted by 2 federal agents. Her normally perfect appearance was disheveled, eyes hollow and skin sallow under the fluorescent lights. When she saw Riker, something like fear flickered across her face before her expression hardened into resignation. "The documents are straightforward," Gabriella explained. "Mrs. Donovan relinquishes all parental rights and agrees never to contact Lily again, now or upon release from incarceration. Winston Davies looking deeply uncomfortable, nodded. My client understands the terms and is prepared to sign. As Brenna was uncuffed to sign the papers, she looked directly at Riker. You won, she said softly. Isn't that enough? This isn't about winning, Riker replied. It's about protecting our daughter. From me? Or from the truth? From having a mother who used her as a pawn in a revenge scheme. Brenna's hand trembled as she signed her name. I never meant to hurt Lily. But you did. And you would again, given the chance. Once the documents were complete, the federal agents prepared to escort Brenna back to custody. At the door, she paused. The recording you sent, she said quietly. How did you get it? Riker maintained a neutral expression. I don't know what you mean. You know exactly what I mean. Her voice dropped even lower. Dominic would never have said those things willingly. What did you do to him? Nothing he didn't deserve. Something like fear, real fear, flashed in Brenna's eyes. I underestimated you. Everyone did. After she was gone, Gabriella turned to Riker with concern. What recording was she talking about? I have no idea, he lied smoothly. The important thing is that Lily is protected now. What Gabriella didn't know, what no one needed to know, was that the package delivered to Brenna's lawyer had contained a recording of Dominic Russo, apparently drunk and unguarded, detailing his plans to use Lily as leverage against Riker once he and Brenna were together. The recording contained graphic descriptions of how he would manipulate and potentially harm the child if necessary. The recording had been entirely fabricated using advanced voice synthesis technology from one of Riker's government clients. Technology not yet known to the public. But it had served its purpose. Brenna, believing her lover capable of threatening her child, had chosen to remove herself from Lily's life permanently rather than risk Dominic gaining access to her daughter after prison. That evening, Riker visited his mother's house to share the news. Lily was already asleep, exhausted from an afternoon of baking cookies with her grandmother. It's done, he told Eleanor, accepting a glass of whiskey. Brenna signed away all parental rights. Eleanor studied her son's face. And how did you manage that miracle? Does it matter? To me? No. She sank into her armchair. But someday Lily will ask questions. She'll want to know why her mother abandoned her. I'll tell her the truth. That her mother chose revenge over family. And your part in all this? Riker sipped his whiskey. I protected my daughter. I have no regrets. Eleanor nodded slowly. The man who came to see you yesterday, the one with the military bearing who wouldn't come inside. Was that Reed? Yes. I remember him from your father's funeral. He mentioned something about Vancouver. Riker's expression remained neutral, just tying up loose ends. Eleanor didn't press further, but her eyes held a knowing sadness. When will you bring Lily home? Next week. The security system at the new house will be finished by then. New house. I sold the old one. Too many memories. Riker stared into his glass. Too many eyes had been inside it. Eleanor reached over to take his hand. Don't lose yourself in this, son. Lily needs her father, the real one, not just the protector. I'm still me, Mom. But even as he said it, Riker wondered if that was true. The man he had been, the husband, the father who read bedtime stories and built pillow forts, seemed increasingly distant, replaced by someone colder, more calculating. Later that night, as Riker checked on his sleeping daughter, his phone buzzed with a message from Agent Samuels. Dominic Russo hospitalized in Vancouver. Severe neurological symptoms of unknown origin. Doctors baffled. Thought you should know. Riker deleted the message without responding. Closing his daughter's door quietly, he wondered briefly if he had gone too far, if the man he had become was someone his daughter could still love. But then he remembered Dominic's threat, Brenna's betrayal, and the cameras hidden in his home. The family he had built, the life he had created, all of it poisoned by people he had trusted. No, he hadn't gone too far. In a world of predators, sometimes the only protection was to become the most dangerous creature in the forest. And for his daughter, he would be that creature without hesitation or remorse. Chapter 9. Iron and Ashes. 3 years passed with the relentless momentum of an unstoppable tide. Riker's company flourished, securing the Prometheus project and a dozen other high-profile government contracts. With Meridian Systems dismantled following the espionage scandal, Competition in the sector had diminished significantly. Riker had rebuilt his life with methodical precision. A new home in an exclusive, gated community, private security, and a carefully curated environment for 8-year-old Lily, who had blossomed despite the trauma of losing her mother. On this particular autumn afternoon, Riker sat in his home office reviewing quarterly reports when his secure line rang, a number only 5 people possessed. "Donovan," he answered. "It's Samuels." The FBI agent's voice was tight. "Brenna Walsh is being released next week. Good behavior and cooperation has reduced her sentence substantially." Riker had anticipated this possibility, though not so soon. "I see. Thank you for the courtesy call. There's more," Samuels continued. "She's filed a motion to vacate the custody agreement, claiming it was signed under duress. Her new lawyer is arguing that the recording she received was fabricated." A cold stillness settled over Riker. "What recording? Don't play games, Donovan. We both know what happened." Samuel's voice lowered. The technology analysis came back. "That recording of Russo threatening your daughter. It used voice synthesis that didn't exist in the commercial sector 3 years ago." "Interesting theory." "It's not a theory. It's a fact. Just like Russo's condition isn't natural." Samuels paused. "I can't prove what you did, but I know." "Is that why you called? To share suspicions?" "I called because I owe you that much. The Bureau is reopening aspects of the Meridian case based on Brenna's new testimony. She's claiming you orchestrated the entire situation, that you knew about Luther's theft of her research and allowed it to happen." Riker's grip tightened on the phone. "That's absurd." "Maybe, but she has Luther Barnes backing her up now. He's recanted his previous confession, saying you coerced him in Vancouver. Luther has advanced dementia. He's hardly a reliable witness." "Convenient timing on that diagnosis, wouldn't you say?" Samuels sighed heavily. "Look, I'm not coming after you officially. There's no evidence that would stand up in court. But I wanted you to know she's coming for you and for Lily. And this time, she has institutional support." After ending the call, Riker sat motionless, calculating possibilities and risks. Then he made 3 calls in rapid succession, to his lawyer, to his head of security, and to Reed Preston. That evening, as Lily worked on her homework at the kitchen island, Riker watched her with a mixture of pride and fierce protectiveness. She had inherited his analytical mind and Brenna's artistic sensibility, a combination that made her both brilliant and empathetic. "Daddy," she asked, looking up from her math problems, "is something wrong?" "You're staring." Riker smiled, pushing away thoughts of the threat looming on the horizon. "Just proud of you, Pumpkin. Because I can do fractions." She grinned, revealing a missing front tooth. "Because you're you." He moved to help her with a particularly challenging problem. "How would you feel about taking a trip soon? Maybe see the Grand Canyon?" Her eyes lit up. "Really? When?" "Next week, possibly. I need to finalize some work details first." What he didn't tell her was that the trip might be extended, perhaps permanently. The contingency plans he had created years ago were now being activated. New identities, offshore accounts, a property in New Zealand purchased through a shell corporation. If Brenna and her allies came for Lily, they would find only ghosts. 3 days later, Riker met Reed in a park several miles from his home, both men walking casually along a wooded trail. "Everything's arranged," Reed reported. "The documents you requested will be delivered tomorrow." "And the other matter?" Reed's expression tightened. "Are you sure about this, Riker? There's no coming back from it." "I'm protecting my daughter. By eliminating her mother." Reed stopped walking. "That's not protection. That's murder." Riker continued forward a few steps before turning. "Brenna made her choice when she decided to come after Lily again. When she allied with people who threatened my child. There are other options. Legal options. Which I've pursued." Gabriella filed counters to Brenna's motion, but the judge is reviewing the evidence. "If they determine the custody agreement was signed under duress, then fight it in court," Reed insisted. "You have resources, influence." Brenna was convicted of federal crimes, and now she's being portrayed as a whistleblower who was framed by her vengeful ex-husband. Riker's voice hardened. "I won't risk Lily becoming collateral damage in a protracted legal battle. I won't watch her be used as a pawn again." Reed studied his former subordinate with growing concern. The man I knew, the man who served under me, understood limits, boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. That man died the day he found cameras in his living room. Riker stepped closer. Are you helping me or not? After a long moment, Reed nodded reluctantly. The access codes for the federal witness housing will be included with the documents. But Riker, this is the last time. After this, we're done. Understood. As Reed walked away, Riker felt a familiar coldness settling over him, the detachment that had become his armor over the past 3 years. He had eliminated threats to Lily before. Brenna was simply one more. But that evening, as he tucked his daughter into bed, doubt crept in for the first time in years. "Daddy," Lily asked sleepily, "what was Mommy like?" Before she went away, the question caught him off guard. They rarely discussed Brenna, by unspoken mutual agreement. She was... Riker searched for words that weren't lies, but wouldn't taint his daughter's image of her mother. She was brilliant, creative. She could see patterns in things that most people missed. "Like me?" Lily asked hopefully. "Yes." He smoothed her hair. "Very much like you. Do you think she misses me?" The innocent question struck like a physical blow. "I'm sure she does, pumpkin." After Lily fell asleep, Riker stood at the window of his study, staring out at the manicured lawn illuminated by security lights. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had become what he had once hunted, someone willing to cross lines that should never be crossed. His phone buzzed with a text from his security chief. "BW spotted at hotel downtown. Appears to be alone. Surveillance confirms she visited courthouse today." Brenna was already in Portland, already making moves to reclaim Lily. Time was running out. The next morning, Riker received the package from Reed, documents establishing new identities, access codes for various secure facilities, and a final note. Consider another way. For Lily's sake, if not your own. For the first time in 3 years, Riker hesitated, Reed's words echoing in his mind. What would this path cost Lily in the long run? Would she eventually learn what her father had become to protect her? That afternoon, Riker visited his mother, who had moved to a retirement community near his new home. Eleanor Donovan, now 73, remained as perceptive as ever. "You have that look again," she commented as they sat in her small garden. "The one you had after Brenna betrayed you." "She's being released," Riker said simply. "And she's coming for Lily." Eleanor nodded, unsurprised. "And you're planning something permanent." It wasn't a question. "I'm protecting my family. By becoming someone your daughter wouldn't recognize." Eleanor's voice was gentle but firm. "Riker, I've watched you these past 3 years. You've provided for Lily, kept her safe, but you've been withdrawing into yourself, becoming colder, more calculating." "I had to." "No." Eleanor took his hand. "You chose to. And now you're at a crossroads again. What would you have me do? Let Brenna take her? Let her use Lily as a weapon? I would have you remember who you are, who your father was." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. He fought to protect, not to destroy, even when it cost him everything. Riker looked away. That man died years ago. Then perhaps it's time to resurrect him. Eleanor squeezed his hand. "For Lily, for yourself." That night, as Riker sat in his car outside the federal witness housing complex where Brenna was staying, the weight of his mother's words settled around him. The access code Reed had provided would get him inside. The untraceable poison in his pocket would make her death appear natural. A tragic but unsuspicious end for a woman with no known enemies. He had planned every detail, as he always did. But for the first time in years, execution faltered. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I know you're out there. Room 212. Doors unlocked. Let's talk before we both do something irreversible." B. Riker froze, instinct screaming that it was a trap. But curiosity, or perhaps something deeper, propelled him forward. Room 212 was Spartan but clean, with government-issue furniture and heavy curtains drawn against the night. Brenna sat at a small table, hair cut short, face thinner than he remembered, but eyes still sharp with intelligence. "You came," she said simply. Riker remained by the door. "How did you know I was here?" "Because it's what I would do." She gestured to the chair across from her. We're more alike than either of us wants to admit. He didn't sit. You're coming after Lily. I'm coming after the truth. Brenna's voice hardened. The recording you fabricated, the way you manipulated me into signing away my rights. I want that exposed. Even if it hurts Lily in the process. She deserves to know her mother didn't abandon her willingly. Brenna leaned forward. You didn't just take my research, Riker. You took my child. I protected her from people who would use her as leverage. Like you used Dominic? Brenna's eyes flashed. What did you do to him? The doctors say his condition couldn't have occurred naturally. Riker remained silent. I thought so. She sat back. We've both become monsters, haven't we? Me in my quest for recognition, you in your quest for control. What do you want, Brenna? Why text me to come inside? She slid a folder across the table. Because of this, documents I found in Whitlock's personal files after his arrest. Read them. Warily, Riker opened the folder. Inside were emails dating back 10 years, correspondence between Luther Barnes and Stanford Whitlock that predated even Riker's marriage to Brenna. As he read, the blood drained from his face. The emails detailed a long-term plan to use Brenna's research, position her to meet Riker, and ultimately create the situation that would lead to the theft of her work. Luther had never acted alone. He had been Whitlock's plant from the beginning. We were both manipulated, Brenna said quietly. You didn't steal my research, and I didn't approach Meridian first. We were pieces in their game from the start. Why show me this now? Because despite everything, Lily deserves better than parents who destroy each other. Brenna's voice cracked slightly. I'm withdrawing my custody petition tomorrow. The original agreement stands. Riker looked up, suspicious. Why would you do that? Because I finally realized what matters. She nodded toward the documents. Keep those. Use them to finish what you started with Meridian. But leave me out of it. Let me have supervised visitation with Lily. Nothing more. I just want her to know I didn't choose to leave her. The request was so reasonable, so unexpected, that Riker found himself momentarily speechless. I've spent 3 years in prison thinking about what I did, Brenna continued. How I let hatred consume me until I couldn't see what really mattered. I won't make that mistake again. And if I refuse, then we destroy each other, and Lily grows up with the legacy of our mutual destruction. Brenna met his gaze steadily. Is that what you want for her? In that moment, Riker saw with perfect clarity what he had become, a mirror image of the enemies he had fought. The poison in his pocket felt suddenly heavy, a tangible symbol of how far he had fallen. Supervised visitation, he said finally. Monitored communication. At the first sign of manipulation or attempt to turn her against me. I understand. Brenna nodded. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Riker. Just a chance to be some small part of her life. As he left the facility, Riker disposed of the poison in a storm drain, watching it disappear into the darkness. The cold certainty that had driven him for years had been fractured, not by compassion for Brenna, but by the realization that vengeance had nearly cost him the last remnants of his humanity. 1 month later, Lily had her first supervised visit with Brenna at a neutral location, with Riker watching from a distance. Their daughter's joy at seeing her mother again was tempered by understandable caution, but the interaction remained positive. Later that evening, as Riker helped Lily prepare for bed, she asked hesitantly, "Does Mom hate you? Is that why you never talk about her?" Riker considered his answer carefully. We hurt each other very badly, Pumpkin. Sometimes adults make terrible mistakes when they're angry or scared. Like when I broke Jessica's doll because she wouldn't let me play with her. He smiled despite himself. Something like that, but much bigger. The important thing is that we both love you, even if we can't be a family together anymore. Will I see her again? Yes, if that's what you want. Lily nodded solemnly. I think it is. But you're still my favorite, Daddy. After tucking her in, Riker stood in the hallway, the weight of the past 3 years settling around him. He had nearly lost himself to vengeance, had crossed lines he had once believed inviolable. His phone buzzed with a text from Reed. Herbie withdrew the petition. Does this mean we're standing down? Riker considered the question. The documents Brenna had provided opened new avenues for justice against those who had manipulated them both. Whitlock and his remaining allies could still be held accountable through legal channels. Yes, he replied. For now, the man who had contemplated murder a month ago hadn't disappeared entirely. He remained vigilant, ruthless when necessary, unwilling to forgive those who threatened his family. But the cold emptiness that had threatened to consume him had receded. For Lily's sake, and perhaps for his own, Riker Donovan had chosen a different path. Not forgiveness, but a controlled peace. Not weakness, but the strength to walk away from the abyss. And if that peace was ever threatened again, the monster would still be there, waiting just beneath the surface, ready to protect what was his at any cost. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.